you didn't read my favorite quote. It's by Grover Norquist. He said, "I don't want to kill government. I just want to shrink it to the size where it's small enough so I can drag it into the bathroom and drown it." And Nappy, one more thing.
Yes,
We always used to hear whenever we saw someone with a big belt buckle, it was, "Big belt buckle, no cattle." Right? So, it's good that you don't have a big belt buckle. So, Houston to Dallas, high-speed rail is just one short nap away. 90 minutes, 35 cents maybe, or if Walter were here it would be free. These are all the promises that Texas Central Railway has made. And that's what Texas Central Railway wants you to believe. I'm going to try and get through this in 30 minutes, so I'm actually going to use notes. But that's what they want you to believe. And they also want you to believe that this is something that the state of Texas, that the United States and the world is crying out for. High-speed rail. We got to have high-speed rail. Texas Central Railway is afraid that Texas Central Railway is going to go the same way as the Trans-Texas Corridor. Remember about 10 or 12 years ago when they tried to cut a 1,200-foot swash through the state of Texas from the southern border to the northern border. And they want to make sure that they don't make the same mistakes that the Trans-Texas Corridor made when they instituted that plan. The big issues that we had, and there were primarily three big issues with the Trans-Texas Corridor. The first was it was a massive land grab, 1,200 feet wide. And it was going to have residential road travel, it was going to have a separate commercial road travel, it was going to have a bullet train, as well as a commercial rail, as well as a high-speed loop underneath it through internet and Wi-Fi. But it was developed by Sintra SA out of Madrid, Spain, which was kind of the tipping point, I think, for a lot of Texans. The Spanish were going to come in and develop mass transportation through the state of Texas, and here's the third part, on Texas taxpayers, which didn't set well with anybody. And so Texas Central Railway has been making a point not to make the same mistakes. And what they did first is that they told us that this thing would be running up 45. That there wouldn't be any land grab. It would just go up 45. I ran into the lobbyist at the Americans for Prosperity conference in August, and he said, "Steve, you can get behind this?" And I said, "Probably not." He said, "Steve, it's going to go right up 45. It's not going to touch anybody's property." And I said, "Well, I don't like that." I said, "Because 45 is not wide enough. We need it to be 6 lanes, not 4 lanes." He goes, "No, we're going to raise it up above 45. I said, "Really? Seriously? Like that's even affordable?" "Oh, that's what we're going to do." And I said, "Well, I don't like the idea of tax dollars being used for it. And that's the only way you can make this thing work. We're not going to use any tax dollars. This is all going to be done with private money. Would you still support it?" And I said, in that dream, I would support it. But that's not going to happen. That's not reality. Second, what they did was they brought Judge Eccles in from Harris County so that this thing would have a Texas face on it and a local name. And they said, hey, it's going to all be run by Texans. Third, they said it would all be paid for with private investment capital. No tax dollars would be used, no tax stop money, no federal transportation grants, not even 3P money. 3P money is public-private partnerships. Anytime you hear any kind of thing that's built with private money, it's usually 3P money, where they say to the investors, for every $1,000 you put up, we'll guarantee that 1,000 plus a return on it, so that when this project goes bankrupt, not if, but when it goes bankrupt, we'll pay you back with taxpayer dollars, and we'll guarantee a return on it. It's a bad deal. And last but not least, no federal money would be used of any kind. It would all be done with private investor money. That's what they told us. So, what is the truth? What's the truth? First, TCR knew right from the beginning, Texas Central Railway knew right from the beginning that the thing would not be going up 45. They've known that all along. At even the meeting that I went to, Braden, are you here by any chance? What meeting did we go to? We go to that one in October, or was it November in Huntsville?
I think it was in November.
Okay, so as late as November, they were still saying that 45 was an option, that they could go straight up 45. You know why you can't go up 45 with a train that goes 210 miles an hour? It's because if you went around a bend on the train, you'd be stuck to the glass. There are turns on 45 that you can't go in excess of 75 miles an hour. Imagine trying to do it at 210 miles an hour. This thing, in order to get it going, it takes 15 to 20 miles to get the thing up to speed. It takes 10 miles to stop it. If they're coming into a turn, they're going to have to slow down miles and miles before the turn. And then once they make it through the turn, it's going to take them miles and miles and miles to get up to 210 miles an hour again. Just as they're doing that, they're coming into another turn. They had known all along that they could not do the 45 route, but they lied to us to make it more palatable, because they knew right away, as soon as they started talking about grabbing land, we'd have an issue with it. So that means that it's going to be a massive land grab. I've been to 3 town hall meetings so far, one in Huntsville, one in Grimes County, and a separate one in Grimes County that is fighting this thing. And I've heard from so many people that this would just devastate them financially, and it would destroy them. So again, let's talk about this. Let's get back to it. They said this is all going to be done with private, sorry Bob, this is all going to be done with private money. So just who is paying for it? They've repeatedly told us that it's private money. At the Huntsville meeting, there were over 300 people there. At the Grimes County meeting, there were over 400 people at that one. Over and over again, we asked, who's paying for it? Who's footing the bill? And they just refused to tell us. And here's what I've heard at the Capitol, is that this money is coming from the Japanese railway company. They're the ones that have footed the bill for the lobbyists, including Judge Eccles. They're the ones that are putting the money up for it. They're the ones that are going to be selling us the bullet trains. And they freely admit that on the Texas Central Railway website, that the bullet trains are going to be built in Japan. But there's more to it than that, and I believe that there's more money behind this than just the Japanese railway company. We also know that now that TxDOT has contributed a minimum of $2 million to this venture. Kyle Workman, who's Paul Workman's son, State Representative Paul Workman, has seen the documentation that TxDOT has put this money into it. And folks, we should be really angry at TxDOT right now for this, because TxDOT does not have the money to chase after shiny objects. They just don't. The Federal Railroad Administration has not only been at these meetings, but the FRA has actually chaired all of these meetings. The same guy from Washington has flown in to run all these meetings. The FRA has had $30 billion committed to it by the federal government to expand and increase high-speed rail in the United States, and it's believed that between $5 and $10 billion has been earmarked for this project here in Texas. We also know that nothing that has been promised, stated, or decreed by the Texas Central Railway should be taken as gospel. On their website, they actually state this. It's buried deep in the website. It says Texas Central Railway will not be the owner, developer, implementer, or operator of this railroad. So why would you believe anything that they say? It's like buying a ticket for a concert knowing only who the warm-up band's going to be, right? I mean, it's just stupid. We have no idea who's going to run this thing, and they can absolve themselves of anything, really, because they stated on their website, hey, look, we're not responsible for what the ultimate owners, the ultimate operators of this thing are going to do. TCR claims that 9.9 million people a year will use this train. How many people fly right now between Dallas and Houston every year? Trivia question. 1.5 million. Yet 9.9 million are going to come on this train. And what they're saying is that, well, we're going to get a lot of people that drive cars to do this. Let's look at that. So you drive to the train station from the Woodlands or from Katy, and it takes you roughly 45 minutes to get there and $25 to park your car. You then buy a ticket and go through TSA groping which takes you 30 minutes, and you pay $250 for the train ticket because they admit that the cost of this is going to be equivalent to a plane ticket, round trip. You then board the train and travel to Dallas. 90 minutes, they say. We'll take them at their word with no stops. But they've also told us, too, that they're going to add stops to it. So if you do 30 minutes at a stop at a minimum, you do 3 stops, that's another 90 minutes. You arrive at Dallas, you get your luggage, you rent a car for $175 a day, and it takes you 30 minutes to get from, the train, to get your luggage, to rent your car, which would be really quick. And then you drive to your location, 30 minutes. It's 5.25 hours at $450. How many of you are going to switch from driving to taking a train? You going to do that?
No.
I think this is dying.
It's dead.
So, what are the consequences of this if this goes through? By the Federal Railroad Administration's own study, they reveal that anything above 87 decibels is seriously loud, dangerously loud. In fact, they use the word severely loud. So let's put this in context. A jackhammer. If you have a jackhammer, how many of you guys have ever done construction here? Anyone? A jackhammer is 90 decibels. If you've worked a jackhammer over the years, you've got hearing loss if you haven't worn any ear protection. Severe hearing loss. A hammer drill, a concrete hammer drill, is 100 decibels. And again, they're saying that severe noise level is anything 87 decibels and above. Again, jackhammer, 90. Hammer drill, 100. High-speed rail, 95. It's really loud. And that's not what I say, that's what the Federal Railroad Administration says from their own study. They even looked at such things as what effect it would have on animals and nature, grazing, feeding, habitat, mating, and they said it would destroy it. These trains are going to be blowing through your property every 15 minutes at 95 decibels. Think about this a second. Every half hour one goes north, every half hour one goes south, which means that in the middle, anywhere in between, every 15 minutes, you're going to have one of these things blowing through your property at 95 decibels. One of the people that attended, it's either the Huntsville or the Grimes County meeting, said that they lived near one of these things in Europe. From a quarter-mile away, inside this guy's house, he said, I could not talk on the phone every time the train blew through. Couldn't hear it. Can you imagine the quality of life you'd have living anywhere near one of these things? Thanks, Bob. Trivia question. Next to oil and gas, what's the second largest piece of economic activity in the state of Texas? Agriculture. This would have a severe impact on it. This will destroy property values all along the route. And in fact, it already is. I've spoken with a number of people that have said, I desperately need to sell my property, but I can't right now. No one will even look at it. It's great property, it's in a great location, but because of the threat, I can't sell it. Folks, my mom and dad went through this, and it devastated them. In Rochester, New York, there's a 20-story building. It's Xerox Tower. And Xerox did not come and say to my dad, Mr. Toth, we'd like to buy your property. They just got urban renewal to take my dad's property from him at 1/3 the value. And it destroyed them financially. I mean, most people that live out in rural areas, their nest egg is their land, it's their property. And to take that from them or to destroy the value of it is just criminal. It's absolutely criminal. And yet these people, as they talk about it, they're like, we don't care. We've got federal eminent domain laws as it pertains to rail transportation, and we're going to get that land. They don't care. And Judge Eccles should be ashamed of himself for having anything to do with this. So let me ask you a question. How about it? I'm going to open it up for questions before we then talk about what to do. So if you have any questions about high-speed rail, sure.
I want to ask, Don't they have to go through Texas, the governor, the lieutenant governor, and someone have to?
They have federal, they,
Or does it go through commissioner?
we're gonna talk a little bit about that, how we stop it, and I'm gonna get to that.
Steve, can you repeat the questions?
Does this have to go through any state agency? And the answer is no, it doesn't. It has to be overseen by TxDOT, but the way the railroads have been set up, it's set up so that the federal government can administer it so it doesn't have to deal with the bureaucracies of all the states. Anyone else? Yes?
It has several stops on the route. What's the use of having high speed?
Exactly. If it has any stops, what's the point?
Why did they then use 45, the trains that run up and down 45, and the Union Pacific could have added on some cars as passengers, like how they did?
But they can't go 210 miles an hour.
No, what the heck about 210?
Right.
I mean, why don't they logically have used that?
Rail does not work. There are very few rail areas that work around the United States even now. Like there's a train that moves between, I think it's like Baltimore and DC. And they upgraded the train about 20 years ago so that it goes upwards of 100 miles an hour. But even still, during that period of time, ridership has fallen nearly 20%. It's economically feasible. People just, I mean, you've heard it before, right? Americans have a love affair with their car. If Americans have a love affair with their car, I don't know what you describe Texans, but...
Just who is pushing that thing to start in the first place?
Yeah, it's the Obama administration. I mean, at the federal level, this is a shovel-ready project, Jim.
Yes. 2 points, Steve. Number one, just some quick math. It was 9 million people per year. That's 24,567 per day.
Right.
That's per day.
Right.
The thing is, it seems to me that if this thing is going to be forced on us, and they know it's going to be a loser, they got smart people who know it's going to be a loser. They're going to have to force people to ride it.
Right.
Which
Can
I
you
think
spell
is what
Solyndra?
it's coming to as far as,
Yeah.
they're going to take your ability to travel down is only going to do that train.
Right. Well, what they're going to do is they're going to impede, they're going to make it difficult. And they'll either start charging tolls on 45, but they'll just make it more difficult for us. They'll put a choke point in, yeah.
You know, I heard there was a special in Latin America and Central America are going with buses whenever they're doing any long term. They're not doing the rails.
No.
Because it's too expensive, because it's not working. They seem to have more common sense than we do.
Yeah.
Right. Right. There are 22 of these around the world, of these high-speed rails. Not a single one of them operates at a profit. And someone will push back and say, hey, no, not true, there are 2 of them. Osaka, Tokyo, and then there's one in Europe that breaks even. But the only reason they break even is because they don't take into account the capital cost of building the rail and the train. They only include maintenance and M&O, maintenance and operations in the equation. And even still, only 2 out of 22 break even. That's not going to happen in Texas.
For comparison purposes, how many people use Amtrak?
Oh, it's empty. Yeah, it's empty. It's a joke. Dale.
What's the best method for publicly shaming Judge Eccles?
You know, it's through social media, and it's going to these events and calling the guy out.
I'll start working on that, Steve.
Letter to the editor is the best way.
Yeah.
to do it.
Yes, ma'am.
Steve, can I take just 1 second? I'm Judy Foster, and I am one of 3 ladies who put together a meeting last Monday night in Montgomery. We thought we were going to have 200 people. We had 800. I have a lot of information. I have some maps and I have some handouts.
Are you taking sign-ups for people to get names?
Absolutely, but I have some handouts tonight about contact people.
Perfect.
And I
Is
have
Kyle
some
Workman
other
on there?
information.
Is Kyle Workman?
Kyle was there with us.
No, I'm sorry. Is he on there to contact him?
No, Tyler's not on here. This is the Montgomery County.
Okay.
But we're going with other people.
Great. Good. Paul.
I saw in the paper something about eminent domain not being allowed for parks and recreation.
Won't work on this.
it's no relationship to this.
It won't, and some people said, well, all we have to do is amend that bill and slip this into it, but it won't work. That's not that won't do it.
When they grab the land, who owns it when the thing goes bankrupt?
We do. No, it becomes our responsibility. This is gonna be overseen by TxDOT, and the state of Texas would be responsible for it, so we're gonna talk about that too. Yeah, you bet.
What are the ranchers saying? What would they do?
They
to
are
protect-
livid. Every meeting that I've been to, now, there have been 11 meetings. 2 of the 11, one was in Houston, one was in Dallas. And the Democrat mayor in Dallas, the Democrat mayor in Houston are just jubilant. This is the greatest thing since sliced bread. But all the ranchers in between, to their shame, they've only given these folks like 48 hours notice. And I mean, it's just wall-to-wall people. One guy said, they call this thing a bullet train? Yes, sir. It better be bulletproof, because I'm going to shoot it if it comes through my property. And that's what you heard over and over again, over my dead body. Yes, ma'am.
Steve, what is the way that they're gonna build it, I mean, the route, that's what I'm looking for, what route are they thinking about?
Do you have the map on you? And if y'all want to go up to her afterwards, she'll show it to you.
Do you have the map?
No, we don't, and I should have put a PowerPoint presentation just so that you could see it. But here's my big issue with this thing. When this fails, not if, but when it fails, we, the taxpayers, will be left on the hook for it. We already cannot afford to maintain the roads that we already have, let alone the ones that we need to build.
What is Austin saying? Because I've not heard anything coming out of Austin.
You know,
Why not?
Paul Workman's son Kyle has been in all of these meetings, and none of the reps have been showing up at it, and have shown no attention to it at all. Congress, go ahead,
None of the reps, like,
House reps.
house reps.
The first reps that showed up for it were at the Montgomery meeting the other night, Monday night. But let's kind of just move into what we should do and how we can impact this thing. We need to fight this on 4 levels. At the grassroots level, we need to turn out for these meetings, encourage more people to host these meetings. So Judge Sadler, I think, was the one that put that meeting together Monday night. We need more of those meetings held. They got great press coverage. The Courier, was the top headline. We need more of those meetings held, but the meetings need to be specific about what the cost is, not what the outrage is from elected officials, but what the cost is and how it's going to impact our lives and how it's going to hurt Texas. We've got to talk about that. Okay? Secondly, we need to communicate with our elected officials respectfully. And we need to encourage them to get in the game, to stand up and speak out against this. At the federal level, they've known about this for a long time. And congressional leaders across the state of Texas have known about this for a long time. These guys have been lobbied heavily for a long time. And so they're going to be a little reticent to come right out and say, I'm against this. So we've got to speak up against this. Do it through social media, do it through emails, do it through cards, do it through letters, do it through phone calls. Educate your friends, family, and get them engaged in this.
Steve,
Yeah,
Kevin Brady endorsed it?
Kevin's been quiet about this.
They all will.
He's had people at it, but I've yet to hear him come out against this.
Hey, Steve, one quick
Kevin.
question. If you already covered this, I'm sorry, but what is the mechanism by which this thing will go or not go?
I'll work on that. I'm gonna get to that as we get to how we stand up against this. At the county level, commissioners' courts across the state of Texas are an incredibly powerful thing. Not by what they can do in commissioners' court, but county governments have an incredible lobbying effort in the state of Austin, or in the city of Austin. The most powerful lobbying group in the city of Austin is county and city governments. If they want something, it happens. You as a state rep, you want something, wait your turn. Got to take care of the lobbyists first. They're very powerful. And if county governments across the state of Texas say, we're not gonna stand for this, no how, no way, you will see the Speaker of the House, you'll see the Lieutenant Governor, you'll see the Governor, and you'll see the Attorney General go after this thing. We need Ken Paxton's office to sue the federal government over this, and we need our Governor, Lieutenant Governor, and our Speaker of the House to stand up against it and say, no how, no way, it's not coming through Texas. It's not going to happen. We don't need House resolutions that are toothless, that say, states' rights, no trains. They don't do anything. They make politicians feel good, they make us feel good, but House resolutions carry no weight of law. We need more than that.
County Court Judge Doyle that just won, how does this stand? Has he spoken out?
Montgomery County Commissioner's Court has come out against this. They passed a resolution against it. But again, resolutions don't do anything. We need for them now to go to their lobbyists, and they need to act as a group to lobby the lawmakers to say, stand against this, we don't want it. At the state level, again, we need more than fluff. House resolutions don't need it, don't do it. We need for them to legislate against this. And we need for Governor Perry. We need Governor Abbott to come together with the Speaker of the House and the Lieutenant Governor and say, it's not going to come through Texas. And to be very resolute that we don't want this federal money. We don't want to do this. At the federal level, we need a Texas delegation that's made up of Senators Cornyn and Cruz, and we need our congressional delegates as well to say, we don't want this federal grant money to build this monstrosity to come through Texas. This is going to happen at the federal level, and it will steamroll us. We've got to get engaged now. We've got to get involved now. We've got to educate friends and family now. And thank you for what you've done to help us in Montgomery County. Any questions?
Have you created Facebook where people can go on there?
There is a Facebook page. Stand up. Come on up here.
You may not be glad you answered.
I'll be Phil Donahue. No, come on, I'll come back to you.
Oh, here you go.
Here you go.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, what's the Facebook page?
Oh my gosh. I have handouts. If y'all
It's
have-
No Texas Central Railways is the Facebook thing.
Is it? No.
No Texas Central Railway is Facebook. The website is notexascentral.com. There are a bunch of these handouts. But this makes a huge difference. And there's also a petition online that you can sign. Folks, when we moved to the Woodlands in 1997, I would get up at 4:30 in the morning, I'd be on the road by 5:30, and I could swing a bat outside of my window and not hit a single car. Now if you get on the Hardy Toll Road at 5:30, it's wall-to-wall traffic. We're way behind the curve for mobility in the state of Texas. We desperately need roads.
Yeah.
The last thing that we need is a shiny object that TxDOT is following right now that's going to distract us from doing that. This will hurt us. This will only hurt us. So any more questions? Yes.
Steve, you mentioned about them wanting to come down 45, but you also mentioned about Grimes County. So is that like a second thought?
It's going through Grimes County. Yeah.
In western Montgomery County.
What's that?
In western Montgomery County.
In western Montgomery County, yes.
I've
Jim.
got one question, and it's not about the train, it's more about the road utility district.
Then wait, Jim, please wait. No,
All right.
seriously. No, because we're not, different people can't bring up different subjects.
Train
Yes, Jim.
only.
Yeah, train
What
only.
about when the federal money is appropriated? Will it be ran through the regional, like HGAC or something?
It won't go through HGAC, it's gonna go through TxDOT, and it's gonna go Federal Railway Administration through, and TxDOT will have oversight. They won't even spend the money. It will be done at the federal level.
Who wants the train and why?
It's crony capitalism.
Steve, do you believe it's tied in with EPA, Agenda 21, the green movement?
No, I don't. I think it's just crony capitalism. Whenever these things happen, like take the high-speed rail that they're doing in California right now. projected to cost $33 billion. You know how much it's going to cost? $99 billion. Whenever they do big expenditures like this and the government does it, there's massive waste, there's massive fraud, there are a lot of people with their hands out, and that's what's going on with this. Yes, ma'am.
I don't understand about the eminent domain. Doesn't Texas have an eminent domain?
This is federal law.
Oh, they
This
can
is-
go around the state's eminent domain, so no matter whatever we pass,
Whatever we pass, yes.
they can go
That's
around.
why we need at the federal level, our Congress and our senators to say, we don't want the money. Brian?
So, I was talking to Ryan the other night, and what I understood him to say was, it's not gonna be an eminent domain issue, it's gonna be a private railroad, and so, I'm sorry, federal railroad, sorry, I apologize. So, that it's not an eminent domain issue because it's a railroad backed by the federal government, it's a private entity, as similar to the other railroads. I may not understand it correctly, but that's the gist of what I got from him.
Correct, but it probably won't, that probably won't help us. We're gonna need congressional delegates to stand up and say, we're not taking the money.
He was saying to go after the whole railroad industry through the state legislature to get the other two railroads to,
Say, you can't use our right-of-ways. It doesn't matter, they're not in charge of the right-of-ways, though the federal government, the Federal Railroad Administration is in charge of those. Yes?
Who's in control of tech stuff?
The Texas legislature is. It's overseen by the Texas legislature.
Do we know where Cruz and Corning stand?
I've not heard from either of them yet on it. And so I don't know, honestly.
What is the House committee that would deal with this? Texas House,
Yeah, transportation.
transportation.
Yeah. At the state level, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So find out, committee assignments should have happened yesterday at 2 o'clock.
They're online.
What committee's Will on?
He is on Homeland Security and Economic and Small Business Development.
Economic activity and small business development? Okay.
Who's that?
That's Will Metcalf is on those two committees. So find out who's on the transportation committee, and we need a concerted effort. No, that's the Senate, but in the House too. We need to find out who the members are in the House. So.
good enough then.
Thank you very much, you guys. Appreciate you.
Did you track some of the money?
We want to give Steve the certificate. We're now giving a thank you certificate.